The Houston Texans defeated the Los Angeles Chargers on Saturday afternoon 20-16 in a must-win game for the Chargers to keep their hopes of winning the division alive. Obviously, that came to a stop after losing this game against Houston. The Colts are now eliminated from the playoffs, and the Texans are still vying to win the AFC South, and they can do so with a win next week and a Jags loss this week or next week. So a lot happened, and it really transformed the playoff picture. The two teams are locks for the playoffs, obviously. All seven AFC teams are determined and are finalized. Now it's just to figure out the seeding and division winners. But a big game nonetheless for the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Los Angeles Chargers. And so here's my instant reaction to this game. I mean, looking at this game on itself, it was predictable, right? You knew it was going to be a defensive battle. You knew it was going to be a defensive juggernaut between the Chargers and the Texans, and it did not look that way to start. Early on, the Houston Texans had two beautiful passes to the Iowa State guys, Noel and Higgins from CJ Stroud. He started off the game with 150 yards passing, two touchdowns, no turnovers. He looked phenomenal. And like many, I thought it was heading towards a blowout. But then the Chargers defense, they kind of stiffened up a little bit. The Texans kept getting to the 50-yard line, but then made unforced errors. Stroud had two interceptions. Entering the game, he had six interceptions on the year, and he threw two this game. He threw 30%, now 25% of his interceptions on the season. The end of the first half was absolutely crazy. It started with Justin Herbert getting let up out of bounds, followed by that huge 60-yard catch by Quentin Johnson on the same corner that drilled Justin Herbert. Then the Chargers had the interception at the goal line. And then CJ Stroud threw his second interception of the game, right? That was right after they busted that huge run by Woody Marks to potentially try and score it in the first half. Then the Texans thought they sacked Herbert, but then they got called for a tripping penalty. And then Herbert fumbled and then recovered the ball. And then Dicker, the kicker, missed a field goal. On the day he was 1 for 1 on the year, was 36 for 38 entering the game. And then he missed that field goal far right. And it was just a turbulent game right there. It's 14-3 during halftime. And then obviously the Texans tacked on some more points. And the Chargers, they ended up scoring a few touchdowns, but to no avail. They couldn't get the stop to end the game, or not to end the game, but to get the ball back with 2 minutes left to go. The Texans ended up running the ball down. You get the idea of what happened. But when I was watching this game, the one thing that really stuck out to me when it came to the Chargers is not that Herbert's getting drilled, right? He was sacked 5 times this game. He didn't get sacked the entire fourth quarter. But the big thing that stuck out to me was that there are no playmakers on this Chargers team. We talk about how they have no offensive line because Joe Alt's hurt, Rashawn Slater's hurt, question marks in the interior, and a just rotating offensive lineman. But when Herbert needed somebody to step up for this team, whether it was Omer and Hampton, we knew the Texans were going to have a great rush defense. They had one of the best in the league. They held players like C-Mac to 25 yards, Jonathan Taylor to 85 yards, Travis Etienne to 58, Derrick Henry to 33, Kyron Williams to 66 yards rushing, right? And they were averaging less than 3 yards a carry. Omer and Hampton was. He was getting 2.1 yards per carry. But my biggest thing was when I was watching this game, it was no one could step up for this Chargers offense. They lack a playmaker for Herbert. So even if this offensive line was perfect and everyone was healthy, Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, sure, he may not have been sacked 5 times, right? But who was stepping up against that secondary? They don't have a tight end that they can turn to. Gadsden is a rookie. He had that drop. Will Dissly's journeyman. Quentin Johnston is nice for a deep threat. Trey Harris is still young, not doing anything. Lyle McConkey, did he have a reception? He had one reception for 31 yards. Keenan Allen had one reception for 17 yards. And they didn't end up really doing anything on that drive either, that third down situation. But it's like, get this guy some playmaker. Omer and Hampton hasn't really done anything his rookie year. Granted, he's hurt, and I understand that. But in this receiving room, receivers and tight ends, he doesn't have a playmaker. And I know Jim Harbaugh's whole identity is we want to run the ball, we want to establish it. But what happens in a game like this, where you're going against a extremely talented rush defense, and you need a playmaker? What happens in a game like this where, yeah, Herbert's going to get pressured fast, so hopefully he has a somebody that he can get the ball out to fast and a reliable target. You look at Houston, and all year, their big thing was CJ Stroud, get the ball out fast, don't have unforced mistakes happen, right? Don't take sacks. Don't take sacks at all. He was sacked 0 times this game. Get the ball out quick. Get it to your playmakers. The offensive line for Houston isn't some beautiful old line. That was a big issue entering the year. Who was going to protect Stroud? They got rid of Tunzel, and they just transformed this whole line. It was all up in the air. but they're having success. They've now won 8 games in a row. And it's because Stroud has players that he can count on, right? He can rely on Nico Collins play in and play out. And on top of that, you saw it early on in this game. Nico was the decoy. So it allowed for Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to have those 2 touchdowns and to have a combined 130, 140 receiving yards against the Chargers. Justin Herbert needs that. He needs help on offense, right? You can be the best QB in the world, but if you don't have a reliable receiver or tight end to throw the ball down to open up passing lanes, you're not going to have success. So that was my big takeaway from this game with the Los Angeles Chargers. As far as Houston goes, I mean, their defense is, again, it showed up again in a big way when they were put in tough situations because of those Stroud interceptions or because of the Quentin Johnson being burnt. They just played relentlessly. They looked like, and they are the most physical defense that we've seen in quite some time. The 49ers have always had those special defenses the past couple of years, since about 2020, but they were more of a fast, speed, flashy defense, right? Good secondary. We're gonna have speed off the edge with Nick Bosa. This Houston defense is freaking physical. It's smash mouth football. EJ Speed is going to knock you out. Al-Shaair is going to knock you out. Jalen Petrie is going to lay the boom on you at safety. Derek Stingley, Lassiter, physical corners. The DNs, I mean, enough's enough. I don't have to really talk about those guys. The linebacker is obviously Henry To'oTo'o, heel smash mouth football. The interior of the defensive line, smash mouth football. Derek Barnett rotating at the DN spot, former Eagle first round draft pick from a couple years back. Smash mouth football. Kalen Bullock. It's all these guys, Sheldon Rankins, that are just going to come in and hit you, and you're going to be hurting against this Houston defense. And you saw Herbert; he was getting drilled from the first quarter, and it was like he wasn't just getting sacked; he was getting nuked. It was a very physical game. And so my takeaway from that is that Houston has a great defense, as we know, but it's physical. So come playoff time and you're taking those hits consistently, it's going to wear on you. It's really going to wear down on you. The other thing about this game, the Chargers were 2 for 5 in the red zone, only scoring twice, touchdowns in the red zone. They need to be better at converting when they get to the red zone. Obviously, they settled for a field goal. They had the interception, and but you got to punch those opportunities in when you can get there. But ultimately, the big thing that I took away, the 2 big things I took away from this game are that Houston has a really underrated team that I don't know if they're capable of beating the likes of the Denver Broncos, but they have a good chance of beating pretty much everyone else in the AFC because they have the most physical defense and it's going to wear down opponents, and their offense is good enough. It's good enough to get them points, and more times than not, this was an anomaly with 2 interceptions from Stroud, but more times than not, they play mistake-free football and look to fight another day, and it's going to set them up for a lot of success in a lot of games to come down and score possessions. They've won, I think, 6 straight now, or the past the 6 past 1 score games they've won, right? So it's a team that as long as they're in it, they can go out and they can win those games. But I don't know if they can do it against Denver. Denver's a different animal. The other takeaway is that Herbert, the dude needs help. And I know the big circle mark is the offensive line. The Chargers have now allowed 56 sacks on the year. That's top 5 worst in the league. But the big thing to me is he doesn't have a playmaker. And there's times where he's sitting in the pocket, and then he just tries to step up and he gets taken down. Or he tries to roll out, he gets taken down. And he has to make plays with his legs. He was a leading rusher for this team. And I'm all for that. Josh Allen, right? I'm all for it. Lamar Jackson. I'm all for a mobile quarterback trying to make big plays. But Herbert does it too often. And it's not because, hey, look, there's some green grass. It's no one's open. Lad McConkey's not getting separation. Keenan Allen is, great charger, but he's 34 years old. Quentin Johnston, nice deep threat, but he's not a wide receiver 1. Okay? He had 90 yards off of 2 catches. Get the guy some help. He needs a true wide receiver in his life or a true tight end, right? Like a Brock Bowers, good tight end, though. He needs someone that can really stick there and be good because Trey Harris is not the answer. Quentin Johnson, Lyle McConkey, Lambert Smith, you name them, they're not the answer at this point. What do you guys truly think, though? What's going to happen in the next couple of weeks with these 2 teams and in the AFC? Please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.